Okay. Hold on one second, guys. I want to go ahead and clear this out too. Hardware. Okay. Home. Okay, guys, we'll try it again here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Loudmouth. My name is Dean. I appreciate y'all for joining us again today. In the studio with me is, of course, Mr. Greg BENTZ, who possibly is going to be a new co-host with us. Greg doesn't think at all like I do. Hell, Greg doesn't think a lot like a lot of people do. And of course, now I know he's going to hit me back on that one here in just a second. But Greg, okay, knock it off. Yeah, let's get
My grandkids. Thanks, grandkids.
chime it out, guys. Chime it out. Also joining me from Fort Wayne today, news director, ex-news director. Of course, now he might be news director. I know he's got a new job. Mr. Tom ACKMON. Hey, buddy, how you doing today?
Good, good. How you guys doing?
Doing real good for
Good.
poor guys. But anyway, Greg, you dropped something the other day on Facebook. It sort of got my attention. Some people call it fake book, but I don't call it that anymore, being I'm sort of on it more and more than I used to be. But anyway, you hit me with some stuff that I thought was just really interesting, and let's just get right into that. Tom will get your opinion on a few of these as well, and then we'll jump around. We'll also be talking about the Andrew Luck situation a little bit later on. But go ahead, Greg, and take off, if you will, on that.
If you're one of my conservative friends and you get mad at things I post sometimes, please read this or please listen to this. If you're one of my progressive friends, you might want to listen to. It may be something you want to copy and paste. I didn't write this, but I'm glad someone did because this pretty much sums it up. I'm a liberal, but that doesn't mean what a lot of you apparently think it does. Let's break it down, shall we? Because quite frankly, I'm getting a little tired of being told what I believe and what I stand for. Hint, hint, it's not socialism. Spoiler alert, not every liberal is the same, though the majority of liberals I know think roughly along these same lines.
Okay, now, first of all, Greg, do you know the definition of liberal?
Nope, I'm an independent.
Okay, well, no, what
I do know what liberal means, yeah.
okay, well, what I got it says it's open to new behavior and opinions and willing to discard traditional values. They may have more liberal views towards marriage and divorce than a lot of us. Concerning education, they're concerned mainly with broadening a person's general knowledge and experience rather than with technical or professional training. Now, let's just skip through that. We've got that opening out of the way. Now, go ahead to your first point there if you want.
I believe the country should take care of its weakest members. A country cannot call itself civilized when its children, disabled, sick, and elderly are neglected, period.
Okay, now I responded on this by saying, how are we not taking care of the disabled, kids, and the sick? Question mark. Please explain in more detail. You must explain in more detail who foots the bill for children who are a ward of the state. I mean, we are footing that bill, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ward
Tom,
of the state, yes.
right, okay. So, I mean, how are we not taking care of our we? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that's a broad spectrum there, but uh, this is going to be a little bit harder to follow. But Tom, do you have any thoughts so far? You want us to just keep going here, and then when you hit something hits you, you want to just jump in, or
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say that there's a group and it's a finite number that there's a million people we're not taking care of because I mean there's there's the handicapped, there's the homeless, there's veterans, disabled veterans. There's a lot of groups of people that we need to take care of, and we do take care of a lot of them. But it's almost I would think it'd be almost impossible to get everybody. To say that, okay, we've finally gotten to the point where we can always do better. I think that's that point of his I agree with. No matter what it is, we can always do better as far as taking care of the less fortunate in our society.
okay, which will lead us into your next point. Go ahead and hit your next one, everybody.
I believe health care is a right, not a privilege. Somehow that's interpreted as I believe Obamacare is the end all be all. This is not the case. I'm fully aware that the ACA has problems, that a national healthcare system would require everyone to chip in, and that's impossible to create one that is devoid of flaws. But I have yet to hear an argument against it that makes let people die or go bankrupt because they can't afford health care. Better alternative. I believe health care should be far cheaper than it is, and that everyone should have access to it. And no, I'm not opposed to paying higher taxes in the name of making it happen.
Okay, now, Tom, before we get your opinion on that, I answered as like, how many times has taxes been raised, and is health care better for it? I don't think so. And please name me someone who went bankrupt for medical cost.
I did.
You did go bankrupt
did.
from your medical cost.
I did.
Okay, then we know somebody there who had health care insurance. Did you have health care
Yes.
insurance at the time?
Yes.
Okay, and even the homeless. I mean, technically, they're not denied health care. Even illegal immigrants aren't really denied it, which cost us all, which is the reason insurance is so high because they just simply go to emergency rooms, which there again, I mean, I get it. We know the healthcare problem is a nightmare. If they had a situation where they had cheaper places they could go versus ER, it might drive our prices down as well. Guys, I know we're not going to figure this one out between us, but Tom, you have any thoughts on this one as well?
Yeah, that's like you said. If I could figure out the answer to that or the easiest way to do that, I'd be one of the 45 people running for president right now. But it's a difficult question and it's hard to figure out, because there's no simple solution. And some of the problems come from, in the medical community. You think, why does it cost X amount of dollars, $500 or whatever it is for an aspirin in a hospital? And it's just stuff that they can't. That there's bigger problems and more and difficult problems trying to figure all this out. And yeah, I don't. If somebody can do that, God bless them.
Yeah, amen on that one.
That's 4 or 5 shows. I mean,
Yeah,
on
it's
healthcare.
you
I
know,
don't believe that illegal immigrants should get free health care or any kind of handout. I do not believe in that. But like Tom said, the $500 aspirin, even going to the get a prescription that would cost me $400 that you can get in Switzerland for $40. How do we
well,
solve that?
now President Trump, I think if it's not been signed into law, he's getting ready to sign into law where you can now get them from Canada as well because it's a great point. And there again, if we knock down all the state, lines and allow, everything to be published, like, what cost here for an MRI versus cost here. If we let these companies battle each other a little bit, it might drive it down some too.
And if we knock down the pharmaceutical companies lining the Congress and Senate's pockets.
But there again, that opens a whole discussion about lobbyists.
It does.
But any more thoughts on that, Tom, before we move a little bit?
Well, it's just that one of the discussions that I always found interesting, and it was earlier in the year, a few months back, was about all the like the EpiPens and why those suddenly got jacked up into price. And they said basically what's in them is the same that it has since it's been invented. And at one point, they were a few dollars, and now it's $200-$300 or something like that. And that, to me, stuff like that is just, I understand their businesses. I understand they're put on this earth to make money. That's what businesses do. But you think, that's life and death stuff for people. And there's no reason. There's no reason why something like that needs to be, and now Eli Lilly and somebody's come up with a few generics that are like $100 or something. But still, you think stuff like that. You think that's a problem of somebody just getting rich off that because they know people need to have that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, buddy, as well. Greg, if you will, you mentioned something about the illegal immigrants. Jump down there to 4 if you want, and let's discuss that one.
I don't believe your money should be taken from you and given to people who don't want to work. I have literally never encountered anyone who believes this, ever. I just have a massive moral problem with a society where a handful of people can possess the majority of the wealth while there are people literally starving to death, freezing to death, or dying because they can't afford to go to the doctor. Fair wages, lower housing costs, universal health care, affordable education, and the wealthy actually pay their share would go a long way toward alleviating this. Somehow believing that makes me a communist.
Now, I responded by saying, how do you say a handful of people? What would you consider a wealthy person? Millionaire, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now the U.S. population, there's 327 million legal residents. Of that 34 million, there are at least 34 millionaires. Now, more than 50% of millionaires live in a neighborhood where the average household income is below 75,000 a year. Nearly one third of millionaires live in a zip code where home values are below the national median average of 205,000 or less. 6 out of 10 millionaires live in a house valued at 500,000. Now, you know, there again, I'm sure you just heard that Obama mentioned the fact that I think he talked about three of the things that we need to look at the most when he was in his presidency, and I think the Democrats are saying sort of the same thing as racism. Number one,
Yes.
economic, difference, how taxes, the rich need to give more to the poor, and there was one more. Anyway, it might come to me here in a second, but did he not just buy a $15 million? He did. He just bought a
Okay.
$15 million beachfront. Oh, that was the other one. Climate. He talks about climate. Well, he bought a beachfront property. I think it was in Boston. There. What is it?
Martha's Vineyard.
Thank you, Martha's
Okay.
Vineyard, and it was an all-white neighborhood. Which, now, easy racism, people out there, but it was an all-white neighborhood, and I think he's just simply laughing at the Democrats. I mean, there again, do you think it's wrong? I mean, should these guys not do a little bit, preach a little bit about what they or practice a little bit about what they preach, or am I totally off base there?
No, you're not.
Tom, any thoughts?
Well, that's the one thing that in Washington, I mean, it's everywhere, but in Washington, it's a disease. I mean, it's running rampant is hypocrisy. I mean, they had like the guys who invented or whatever created, owned Google had a summit on about the environment, climate change, and all this other stuff, and invited all these biggity wigs to come and talk about it, and it was geniuses like Katy Perry and other. I think Obama might have been there, but then they said there was like 114 of them came on private jets, and there was probably 5 or 6 of them that came on their own private yacht. I mean, the hypocrisy of that, or just the stupidity of that, is just off the charts. To say, okay, you're preaching that global warming and all this other stuff is tearing up the environment, but you're each going to come on a private jet that guzzles how much fuel and causes how much of a carbon footprint. But that it never occurs to them that shouldn't we maybe carpool or something to try to save fuel and stuff like that. They all show up in these, and it's just that's something in Washington that's just there's so much of, well, do what we say but not what we do.
Yeah, I agree. And
I mean, don't try to copy us, but you should try to save, and you should try to do this, and you should try to do that. And it's like, well, setting a good example, you doing that would go a long way. I don't expect them, live in an apartment like I do, but it's just it's if you want us to tighten our belts, I'd like to see you pull it up a notch or two.
yeah, I agree, Tom. And Greg, as you're looking at your notes, you can jump around on any situation or anything you want. I'm just going to go off some earmarks here. You know, guys, I don't know. I think we all know what the answer is, but I don't know how it gets fixed. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're really that far apart. I mean, and the Republicans are just as guilty. I mean, they all. I mean, look at our national debt. Um, you know, the tariffs. Now, there again, we might feel a little different on that. The tariffs. Are you up to date at all? I mean,
Yeah.
China. Okay. Do you disagree or agree or?
I think, I honestly think that it should have happened a long time ago, but I think it's going way too far. I think they're having a big dick contest right now, is what they're doing.
Well, uh, of course, there again, China to me is communist. I mean, they're, I don't know, I think it's sort of locking up like 8 or 9 Christians daily. They don't have an election. Correct me now, either one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe they have any elections over there. Uh, and the tariff thing, I think there again, I think the media is blowing it way out of proportion. Now, I know there's probably some farmers that it's hitting somewhat, but in any situation like that, somebody's going to get hit. And guys, the bottom line is it's taxes. Okay, they talk about on social media how all our prices are going to rise. Our washers and dryers, if you need a water. Do you know of anybody that's actually complained about paying more for anything yet?
I think that's, I think it's a thing of the past. I really do.
I mean, I do too. I just think that's something they're using. I think this is something that needs to be done. And guys, we import a hell of a lot less from China than they do us. And
Oh yeah, we're their best customer. I mean,
absolutely.
who needs who? I mean, if we suddenly shut the border to them and say, okay, no more of your stuff's coming in here, they're screwed. because they're going to be sitting on a lot of product, and and well, who they're going to sell it to? Their own people and stuff like it. They don't have money for stuff like that. They're dependent on us. But I think for too long, everybody, the United States kind of put up with a lot of countries bullying us and saying, well, we're going to dump all this stuff on you, and you guys are just screwed. We don't care, and it's tough for you guys. And we just said, oh, okay, thank you. And now that Trump is getting a little tough with them, and so much of this is just posturing. They don't want it any more than we want it. Because they're going to do the same thing to us that we are doing to them. And so it's just like they don't want it, we don't want it, but you can't. Trump's taking the approach of, okay, we're not going to just roll over and whatever you say yes, sir, thank you. We're going to sit there and say, no, we need something from you or we'll jack your tariffs up. And so it's just, in the end, it's like anything else when two people go on strike against a company. They both stand out there and scream and yell and, oh, we're going to do this and we're walking off and you guys will be screwed and this and that. And at the end, they always usually come back to something and everybody goes back to work and it's over with. But, neither one wants to ask or act like they're getting pushed around or that they gave in, so they have to sit there and puff their chest out and make all these crazy claims and we're going to jack up this on that and we're going to put this on that, and then some point they both realize they're going to screw each other, and so they just give in and make some kind of compromise. But till then, the media especially, is going to make it look like, okay, we're all screwed. Farmers are screwed. Homeowners, anybody who is a consumer is going to be screwed. It's like, well, let's wait till it's done before we get too upset.
Well, yeah, I was reading a little information on it earlier. Now, this was from an independent writer. And he made a comment. Actually, this was in print. I thought this was a little interesting. He said, if Trump raised tariffs from 10 to 25%, about 200 million in China imports, which works out to about 30 billion a year. Now, with that being said, and this sort of shocked me, us, you, me, Tom, and everybody else who pays taxes, federal, state, and local, 5.51 trillion a year. I mean, I didn't know it was that high. In fact, I didn't know there's that many people working, to be honest. But
Yeah.
anyway, that so, and he said it's just trivial. It's so trivial, it's not even really worth mentioning. But boy, it seems like we're getting it mentioned quite a bit. But we'll see how that goes. And I think we should crunch them. I think we should keep a chokehold on them. But who knows, guys?
Well, the other thing is though, it was always. The media is not going to do them any good. You see, Bill Maher said the other day, and there's been congressmen that have said the same thing. They wish we'd go into a recession. They wish the economy would tank because that gives them a good chance of beating Trump, in 2020. Because that's always the number one issue with most people is if the economy's going good. I may not like Trump. May be a little mouthy. He may be a little this. He may be a little that. But I got a job. I just got a raise. Things are good. Prices are down. My son now has a job, things like that. They're willing to overlook a lot for a good economy. And Bill Maher and some other guys said, yeah, I agree. It's a shame. I hate to see a recession come, but I kind of hope we get one because it's going to make it easier to beat Trump. So if China barks a little bit about we're going to ruin your economy or we're going to jack this up or that, they may know it makes Trump look good, and they can run all their stories about, here comes that recession we were worried about, and so we're going to be screwed here in a minute. So you're never going to hear the media say, let's just wait and see what happens before we get too upset. They're going to jump off the diving board.
Yeah, I wish I had some answers. I mean, of course, I do feel like I have some answers, but I know nobody's going to listen to them. Greg, is there anything you want to jump onto another point here, or let's see here. Boy, I don't know. Guys, I'm gonna be honest. This stuff is really so damn depressing. Has anybody seen a good movie lately?
I watched ACKMON yesterday.
Oh, well,
I watched Easy Rider last week.
Yeah, that's
on the anniversary.
Mr. Fonda died, right?
Yep.
That's right. Yeah. I went and seen 147 meters down. Don't waste your money.
Oh.
Just another shark gets its ass kicked. it was. I don't know. I mean, my family hates going to movies with me. It's like, Dad, it's a movie. But that's why I guess I like true stories, like Casino. Remember that one, Tom? Classic. Maybe that's what we need to do is send Nikki to Washington, let him whack a few people. Uh,
Give him a phone and turn him loose.
yeah, turn them loose. That's exactly right. By the way, was
Well,
it?
it is. That's my wife. Her favorite phrase is when I read her stuff in the paper, like, "Honey, did you hear this?" or "Look at this." And her favorite phrase is, "I don't try to pay attention to that." She said it's just depressing because if you believe all the running around, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. You'll just think there's no hope for this country.
Oh,
I mean, it's just you look everywhere you look, and it's so bass backwards all the time that people will get upset, and then rightfully so. If somebody has a dog, in a car and it's overheating and stuff like that, but then you'll have people say, "Well, how many kids were aborted today? Did anybody get upset over that?" Not really. And then they say, "Well, okay, we're worried about this or that, that we're worried about all these poor immigrants separated from their family, and there's a lot of, homeless veterans who don't have, proper care or a place to sleep, and they gave their lives for our country." And think, nobody cares about. I mean, people do, but overall, there's no story every day about this or that. But some kid from Guatemala who came up here with his parents, because they want free stuff, were worried if he got separated from his family. And the whole value system and stuff like that to me is just so screwed up. And what I've always said is the thing that's depressing is not what things are like today. What's depressing if you think, what are the odds in 6 months it's going to be different? And it applies to a country. It applies to your personal life. What's really depressing isn't like the way my life is right now. It's just think, okay, what about next year? What are the odds it's going to be any different than it is today? You think, no, not really. You think, now that's depressing. It's the same thing with the country. You think, okay, if Trump gets elected next year, reelected, I think, what are the odds that they're going to start saying, let's just work together to make this country a better place? Or if they're going to keep hammering and investigating, holding hearings, trying to pin something on him. And they will. So if he wins next year, it's going to be 4 more years of this crap of let's just try to find anything that we can find at all to, some colleague of his, something, his wife's shoes, something to pin on him. And that's all we got to look forward to. And that's just depressing.
well, I've been waiting for a year, excuse me, for the deep state, the dossier, all that to come forward. It looks like
Yeah.
it's getting closer. But with what you just said, if I had the power, I would just wave my hands and say, let's just forget it all. Quit going
Yeah.
after Trump. Let's leave Hillary and Bill alone. And I agree. Let's start working together and moving forward. I mean, the last time the budget was balanced, Clinton was in office, which I voted for Bill. I guess I should say President Clinton. But, Newt Gingrich and the Republicans had the Congress and the House, I believe it was. So
Yeah.
the budget got balanced, and
Well,
they,
Clinton got smart. When Clinton was office, he got smart. When he got reelected towards the end of his first term into his second, he thought, okay, I can sit here and not just knock heads with them and get nothing done, or, like I remember they had like some reforms with welfare and some other stuff that wasn't a real big high priority for, liberal Democrats, whatever. But he saw the sense in it. And Gingrich and the guys are putting it forward, and he decided, okay, I'll go along with them and let's see if we can get some stuff done. And they did. That's rare in Washington because since then, since George Bush the second, since he got elected, it's been so contentious, and it's like I don't care what's good for the country. I don't like Bush, I don't like Trump, I'd rather see bad things happen to him in the country than to have any kind of success and give him credit for that, and that's just messed up. I mean, you're not there in Washington you're there to try to push your own agenda, but I mean to hope bad things on the country. That's messed up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more than my lifetime before we see that change again. But I think Bill Clinton had the right idea. President Clinton had the right idea. I wish we had more him and more Lee Hamiltons.
but guys, how much do you think social media is playing into all this?
I think the media and social media both
Well,
help because people. I mean, the average person out there probably doesn't watch a lot of news, but they're constantly on their phone.
exactly.
So yeah,
and, and that's my point. For us to have this conversation, uh, well, as we are right now, I would have to be talking to you in person 10 years ago. I think, well, I was the first text sent in 92, I think. But anyway, with that being said and done, now you can share your view with uh, 1,500 people or as many who are ever following you within seconds. So I just
Yeah.
think we keep it going and just keep feeding it and feeding it. And I don't know how you guys are. And of course, I feel like I need to stay updated a little bit because of doing this. But there's times where it's like, man, I got to get a break because
Yeah.
it just doesn't stop. Uh, I mean, that's
Well,
like,
and the thing is too, it's gotten to the point where and it used to be, with the old Walter Cronkite, whoever else, Huntley, Brinkley, dating myself. In those days, there was some integrity in media. Now these guys that call themselves anchors or reporters say they hate Trump and they wish this and that. And it's like, see, anchor, your job is to report what happened, not report what happened with your special little slant on it so it makes sure Trump looks bad. And it's been done both ways. There's Fox News sometimes or something like that will go after a liberal and slant it this way or that way. And you just think, so the media used to be, that's who you can trust every night to get that in the newspaper, to give you the real scoop, what's really going on, and then you make your decision and make your mind up. And now there's such bias in the media that they just that you can't trust them. And then you ask people, okay, so where are you getting your news from? Well, it used to be Jon Stewart, a lot of younger people or whoever that know a guy is who's on there now, or some comedian or somebody who your blog you follow, and you think, well, how do you know what their little slant is? I mean, they're not going to tell you just the basic facts. They're going to put their own little slant on it to make them, whoever look bad that they want to look bad. And you think, okay, if you talk to a majority of 20-somethings-year-old and they say that the Daily Show is there where they get all their news from, you think, okay, well, and that's who do you turn to for the news then?
we, I don't know. You got, of course, I make myself watch MSNBC, and of course, I watch Fox. But I try to, when I want truly fair and unbalanced, I try to watch the BBC. But I don't know, guys. I don't know where you go either. Greg, real quick, are you for the Electoral College?
No.
So you think the Electoral College should be done away with?
Yes.
That's very interesting. Because to me, in all due respect, that makes absolutely no sense to me. Can you explain?
I don't agree with the fact that the electorates don't have to vote the way that their voters voted.
But how many times has that happened?
I think it's going to change. I do.
Well,
Okay.
here's the thing. They said that, like everybody says, well, okay, Hillary had however many, a million or however many more votes than what Trump did last time. It's like, so she should have won. But they pointed out that most of her vote margin came from like parts of California and New York. I mean, she had like a million, 2 million more votes in those two locations. So if you take those two out, she would have like a million less votes than what Trump had. So all she's figuring is all I got to do is go to New York, go to Los Angeles, build up a big lead in actual votes there, and I can tell the rest of the country to go to hell. Then I don't have to spend any time talking to them. I don't care about them as long as I get the number of votes from those big centers of population. You can win, and I don't think that's fair for that's why they call the Midwest flyover country, because they care about New York, they care about Los Angeles, and the rest of the country. For a lot of politicians, they don't care. That's why the last victory by Trump surprised people, because they're like, well, everybody I hang out with in Washington D.C., New York, Los Angeles, they all love Hillary. Well, there's other people out there, and if you get away at the Electoral College, she can go to whoever's running, just have to make New York and Los Angeles happy, and you can win. I mean, they'll do the numbers on it and think, okay, we win by a million there and a million here, and then we'll have enough votes we can still end up winning, and that's just messed up.
Yeah, and of course that's the reason why the Electoral College was brought into place.
Yeah,
But I never thought about. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. What Greg I think is what you're saying though is if your state by popular vote goes Republican, you still have your delegates
Right.
that can go opposite who the popular vote went for. But now in a presidential race, there's just two. There's just Democrat and
Right.
Republican. I mean, I guess if Indiana went all Trump and the delegates, for whatever reason, I guess if somebody on the Democratic side had billions of dollars they gave them or lobbyists, you're saying that they could flip flop.
They could.
But it's never been done,
It's
though.
never been done. I think I guess, a more true statement than I'm against electoral college is it should be fixed.
But how would you? But how do you? What? Okay, I mean, what do you mean by fixing it? How would you fix it?
I think that the Electoral College, I mean, if it's should vote the same way the popular vote in their state goes, I do think they should.
But that is sort of how it is.
It is. That's the way it is right now. But they're making it more and more known that they do not have to. They don't have to do that.
Well, see, I was looking up something online. We guys are talking, and they said August 22nd that a federal appeals court said members of the Electoral College who cast the actual vote for president may choose whomever they please, regardless of a state's popular vote.
And
Right.
that's what Greg's talking
Now
about.
that ends up being, the law of the land or whatever. But I mean, I think for the most part, you get people who aren't happy and are this and that and grumble about that. But I think most part, the Electoral College people, vote for however their state went. I mean, you get people that are like, I don't know if I'm going to do that or vote for this or that because I'm not happy that he did this or that. But I mean, it's possible. I mean, you could turn a whole election that way and just say, okay, I'm gonna. A bunch of us have decided we're not voting for Trump, even though he got the most votes, and it's like, okay, then you might as well throw it out because then it's not, then you're not holding anybody to any kind of standards.
I think what I feel is if that happened in Indiana, I would say, why should I vote? Why should I take the time to vote? And I might
No,
not
a lot
vote.
of people would.
Yeah.
Well, seeing what I'd say, damn it, that's why I backed the Second Amendment. I'm going to load my gun and head to the State House. But, wow, guys, I don't know. It's interesting times we live in. Speaking about social media, and I know I've promoted this a couple times in the past. What are your feelings on social media? I mean, I do have Dr. Mark Charpentier. He is going to be coming on. I talked to him just last week. His schedule's so busy. He's an emergency room physician. He really, really wants to do a show on this. He said the rise of depression in our young people is skyrocketing, and he attributes it to social media, of course, as well as the drug situation. But he's about as fearful of social media as he is anything right now. And
Well, you think you hear a lot of young people, the rise in suicides and depression and stuff like that. And when you talk to them or you listen to them, it's like a drug that they're addicted to they can't get off of. Because people will tell them, well, if all these kids are making fun of you, don't go on Facebook. Block them, do whatever. It's like, well, and their viewpoint or their opinion is like, well, how do you do that? Or not how do you physically do it, but I can't just stop, paying attention. So they go on all these Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and whatever else. And all these people are calling them fat and stupid and this. And you see what she was wearing today? And it's like, God, don't. If there's a group of people in a corner and they make fun of me for being fat every day, I don't go to that corner anymore. But with social media, they feel like if I'm not going there, whichever one it is or all of them, then I'm missing out on everything. So they feel almost obligated or addicted to the fact that I got to go to find out what's going on, and chances are they're going to take the brunt of it, And so that just makes it worse. And kids a lot of times, and then adults aren't blame-free. Like kids a lot of times they go, oh, she's all bummed out and talking about killing herself. How stupid is that, And they just keep piling on. They don't think, oh, my God, we're being horrible to this girl. We got to stop. They just keep piling, and then when someone dies, oh, that's too bad. Gosh, it was a shame. She was a nice girl. And it's something that, kids nowadays, it's just, it's like they can't do without it. It's like breathing and eating. How do you expect them to do without it?
I think there's
That's
more.
just kind of sad when you're that dependent.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more bad than good. But you look at the past couple of weeks where they actually caught 3 or 4 people that could have done mass shootings because of their post, and they were reported.
yeah, but there again, how much of the social media is leading to them doing what they're doing? Now, I mean, I know a nut's a nut's a nut, but when they know they're going to be instant celebrities in a bad kind of way.
Right.
Uh, it's I remember 48 Hours. It's been 7, 8 years ago, and I never thought about the time, but it was about a high school sweethearts. One's football star, the other I think cheerleader. Went all the way through high school, and now she was going off to college, and she thought, well, we need a break. Told her best friend and said, please, please don't tell anybody till I get a chance to talk to him. Well, she, of course, what good's a secret if you can't tell one person? So she told another girl who, bingo, right out on Facebook. Well, all of a sudden, all his buddies come to him and said, hey, man, I didn't know so-and-so was ditching you. A couple of them said, do you care if I did? And he was just dumbfounded. Turned out he met her in the garage and went over to her place. and said, "How in the hell could you do this to me?" And she said, "I swear, I." And of course, he got angered, and long story short, he choked her, killed her, you know, and that could have never happened 20 years ago. Now, with that being said, and I get pushback from my son all the time. It's like, Dad, gosh, I love you so much, but you older people and your ideas just need to die. And it's like, okay, son, it's going to be your world pretty soon. But man, I really fear for our young people. But you know, there again, how do you fix it?
Well, that's what I said. They don't think of the repercussions of it, or they don't stop and think. When you get older, you start looking at things in a wider world view and think, okay, if I say this, what's going to happen? Well, it could get back to her, and that would be devastating. Kids just think, oh, should I know this? And someone says, hey, have you heard from so and so? I heard her boyfriend's breaking up with you. No way. And then they got to, share it with everybody, and they don't stop for half a second and think, maybe I should just keep that to myself. If that was me, would I want everybody knowing about it? And it's just sad because it's just a monster. That social media is such a monster that can do such harm. I mean, there's a lot to it that people enjoy, especially kids and stuff. And if I was their age, if I was 16, 18 now, I would be, right in the middle of it all and everything. But it's just, it's
Hell, I'm 60 years old, Tom, and I'm in the middle of all of it, buddy.
I
Well, and
don't.
the thing is, what I always say that social media a lot of times to me is a perfect example. It's like leaving a loaded gun around the house. Potentially that gun can't shoot anybody. That gun can't pick itself up or shoot somebody, but having it lying there all the time, is just asking for trouble. And that's one of those things where it's just, having that there and the kids, because every time somebody has a school shooting, there was a girl that used to date that last shooter. I don't know if it was El Paso or Dayton. But she's like, he was always talking about wanting to go to school and shoot somebody. It's like, oh, for God's sake, tell somebody. Tell his parents, tell the cops, tell a
Right.
teacher. It doesn't do any good after he does it to say, oh yeah, he's crazy guy. He was talking about, oh, he's going to grab somebody, hurt somebody, and he said if somebody did this or did that, he was going to shoot somebody in the head. And you think, oh my God.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
then they just figure like, I'm not going to run to their parents. I'm not a snitch or something, but it's just,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know if you guys have caught any of the. Of course, I think it's a couple years old now, but it's on Netflix. The 13 Reasons, or no? Okay, uh, there again, I'm sort of on that lines. A girl committed suicide. Of course, that's getting a lot of pushback from parents as well. But there again, I mean, I guess you got to distinguish maybe the kidding versus the realism of it, because I think me and Greg both worked at the same place for quite a few years, and there's a couple of people that work there. I think we shook our heads a couple of times and thought, I kid about going on top of the courthouse all the time, but it's like,
Oh,
but this guy, I mean, there's a couple of them I thought, man, I don't know, but I never,
I don't.
I never told anybody. I
No.
never went, and who do you tell? What do you go do? Tell the local chief of police? I mean, what's he going to do? Say, well, do you have any evidence? Well, I think a guy might be. Well, you got to
there
have
was
some.
a guy. There was a couple guys. One guy, his I guess he's married now. He's a guy I worked with years ago, and he was on Facebook. And he's married now, but his old love of his life, I guess, they had broken up. I think she died of a drug overdose or something like that. And he was pretty torn up about it, and that caused problems in his marriage. Because his wife's like, he's putting stuff on her. This is the only woman I ever loved, and now she's gone, and how am I supposed to go on? And she's like, I'm sitting on the couch right next to you, your live wife, and you're talking about your girlfriend that she's the only person that you ever loved and stuff. And next thing you know, he was talking, well, that I don't see any point in going on, and everybody started posting stuff like, hey, does anybody have Bob's number? Can anybody anybody know where he lives? Can you get over there? And they were all saying, I'm going to drive over to his house right now or something like that. And you think, okay, there was another friend said the same thing. He was telling his sister on Facebook, it's been nice knowing you, and everybody else was commenting like, don't do anything. And people that lived in the same town with him, like, I'm headed over there, and everybody's like, okay, because I mean, if you can do that, you're fine. But I mean, if they're living in a town with nobody else you think, do you call the cops and tell them I'd like you to check up on this guy? I don't know his address, but
Well,
that's
the other flip side of that is, of course, I work as a 911 dispatcher now, and I got a call the other night to start a unit, an ambulance towards well, out in the county. I won't say the town's name, not that anybody would ever know the person, but anyway, and they had law officers going as well. This was for a girl who text. Take the ed off. I know, folks, it's text, but anyway, uh,
Texted.
God, it's hard to just not say that. But anyway, I'll say it however I want. It's my show, right? For another week, anyway. But anyway, the girl text Central Dispatch stating that her boyfriend was very suicidal, and she was very, very concerned, and uh, they'd been texting back and forth, and she could not get a hold of him now. So there we go. We send officers, we send an ambulance. They get out there, get a hold of the guy, and he said, "This is ridiculous. I'm no more going to hurt myself than anybody else in the world. She's just mad because I broke up with her." You know, so there went two officers, an ambulance, and of course, there's no pushback on this. Next thing I hear, everybody's 10-8 back in service, and it's like, why don't we go after some of these people? But, that's the downside there again to the social media. And I don't know how many times I really feel for our officers because all they do is run all night on somebody will pick up a cell phone and say, well, it looks like there's somebody. I mean, they go to Walmart, Tom, about 4 times a week for somebody slashed over a steering wheel or laid back in the seat. And it's like, it's usually the same thing. Now, there are those instances, but 90% of the time it's like, well, hey, my wife's inside shopping. Am I not allowed to just lay back and relax a little bit?
Yeah.
But that's the society we live, guys, and it's good or bad. It is what it is.
That's a whole nother.
Because I remember there was a guy when I worked at a liquor store once, and I look out in the parking lot, and he just, leaned all the way back in his seat, and I just, kind of watched him, and it didn't look like he was moving much, but he was just kind of, laying all the way back with his mouth open, and kind of like, well, I don't know, I don't want to call the cops, but, so
especially after you just served him.
Yeah, and so I just kind of, and so I just, went up and got a tapped on the window. Of course, it scared the what out of him because he said, oh, I was just driving down the road, and I couldn't keep my eyes open, so I thought I'd pull over here and, maybe try to just catch a little nap or kind of get until I wake up again. It's like, oh, okay. I was like, he wasn't mad at me or anything. He's just like, oh, okay. So I just want to check, but, staring at him, you think, I don't want to be one of those guys that, so how long did you stare at him? I don't know, about 3 hours, and I checked and he was dead. So you think, I guess I should go out and do something, but, I didn't want to call an ambulance or a cop or something. I figured I can go tap on the window, and if he's not moving or anything, then I would have escalated it. But yeah, it's always, especially with kids now, because kids have always been that way. They just didn't have all the social media tools to amplify what their their thoughts, their fears, their troubles, and whatever else. It's just now they have they can do stuff like that, and people go, holy crap, there's something wrong with her, or it sounds like she's in trouble, or it's just.
And this is a whole other show too. I do ride-alongs with the police department here in town, and we got a call one night.
Do they make you sit in the back?
No.
Okay. I'm just talking about
I
the
sit
look.
up front with them, and I carry a gun actually.
That's 2 more shows.
That's 2 more shows, yeah. And, we got a call one night for at a local business where somebody was slumped over the steering wheel. And they waited 2 hours to call. Just watched him wait 2 hours to call.
Well, I forgot, man.
He was he was huffing a little butane, and his sugar was like 60.
Ooh.
And they sat there and watched him for 2 hours before they called.
People are just so afraid. Of course, with there again, even though they say I think what the national crime rate is actually down, but with every time there's somebody stabbed or shot, is boom, you just see it continuously. I think people are really afraid to approach, vehicles, and of course, who am I to say, hey guys, it's fine, go out 100% of the time, but there's always that 10. Guys, have we solved any problems today at all?
I think we need to keep working on it.
By the way, Tom, you want to share your new employment, or is that are you in an underground bunker?
I work for a contractor. It's somebody who contracts with the state of Indiana, and the state of Indiana hires them to answer the phones for what do you call it, like public assistance. they have, people call in and say, hey, my food stamps, my welfare, my this, my that's all screwed up, and I would be one of the person to answer the phone.
Oh, okay.
So they get the state of Indiana contracts with a telemarketing company. I think they're more than that, but they're global. But they
Hello,
the ones
this
that
is
take
Mike.
the
How
phone
can I
calls
help
and
you
so
today?
So I always tell people that I'm the one that's going to get yelled at from now on. You screwed this up. Well, okay, let's see if we can fix it.
So,
Greg's going to audition here. Maybe go.
hello, this is Mike. How can I help you today?
That's a lot of people are stunned. Oh, crap.
My God, I can understand this guy.
I always say that with Comcast. I'm always so happy when someone says, hi, this is Betty. It's like, oh, my God, and I always tell the people if I can't understand them, if it's a language problem, I always tell them it's nothing personal.
I do
This
too.
is something
Yeah.
I need to be able to understand you because I'm trying to fix the problem here.
Yeah, because the guy told
And
me once.
if most of what you're saying, the words or the verbiage or the accent or something is such that I can't understand you, it's not a personal thing. I don't dislike anybody from any island or any country or anything like that. It's just I have to be able to hear what you're saying and understand it. If I can't, this is just a waste of my time.
Well, and of course I've made that same comment to a couple of people, and of course one guy told me it's not much better on this end either, partner. So, but but I guess you're not the person to call in with the robocalls. You're not going to be able to fix those, though, right, Tom?
No.
God,
Actually,
those
used
things
to
are
do
driving.
telemarketing before this job.
Those things.
We never did any robocalls though.
Those
We
things are
just had
driving
live
me
people
bad
calling.
shit crazy. But okay, guys. Well, we've come to the end or close to it anyway. Is there anything you want to inject, Greg? No great movies out there or anything? You still doing the big?
I'm not a movie watcher.
Are you not?
No.
You're a go-getter, ain't you, man?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Rib Fest?
Crowd was down.
It was down,
It was
huh?
down. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder what that would be all about. Because the weather was really pretty good, wasn't it?
Weather was good. They had a little chance of showers on Saturday afternoon to scare some people away, but the biggest complaints that I heard was the same thing of all festivals in Madison. They get a little overconfident. They get a little big-headed. They start raising prices on everything.
Gotcha.
And it's hard for a husband and a wife to get in the gate at $70, and then if you want to drink a couple of beers, they're $5 each.
That's
the
pretty
crowd
high.
was way down this year. Yeah.
Okay, guys, real quick. We said we talked about it earlier. I don't agree with what Greg put out. Now, do you remember what you put out about Andrew Luck when you first heard?
Yeah.
Go ahead, repeat it.
Goodbye, Luck. Good luck in the broadcast booth. That's where you should have been quite a few years ago.
Wow. See, now I don't agree with that. I was an Andrew Luck. Of course, I'm a Colts fan too, and a Bengals fan. Of course, there's about 3 of us Bengal fans. But with all that being said and done, I was very, very. My son come in was so distraught last night, and because he was so looking forward to the season, because the Colts were actually predicted to do pretty well.
Yeah, they were favorites in the division, and
yes, absolutely.
3 or 4 or 5 people maybe go to the Super Bowl out of the conference.
And of course, now Sky is he's hopeful that he'll change his mind. And of course, we're already arguing again because I said, well, I'll tell you what, son, if he changes his mind within a week or two, which Andrew might do, I said, I'll be damned if he'd come back and play for me. I said, if he did, we'd really have to sit down because, and Tom, the way he did it, I mean, can anybody figure that? I mean,
well, the thing is that's so troubling is that it all started years and years ago when the Colts had, not before he got hurt this year or two ago, but prior to that, they had no offensive line, and he just got the crap beat out of him. And then finally, in the last year or so, they started putting a lot of resources and money and stuff to getting an actual offensive line. He was like one of the fewest guys sacked last year, as opposed to the previous 2, 3, 4 years where he was always among the top. So his body took a beating, and it just seems that it started out with, okay, he was in town here in Fort Wayne doing a little football camp and during the summer, and he's like, oh, yeah, everything's good. I feel good. I'm real excited about the team. And then also he had this little calf sprain or calf, whatever it was. And then it was like, well, it might be a high ankle sprain. It's like, okay, he might miss a week. He missed spring, preseason. Then all of a sudden it was, boom, I'm retiring. And it's just, I would be upset, if he think about all the people who, are doing okay but not rich. So we thought,
season
what,
tickets.
we're going to lay some money out for season tickets
Yeah.
this year. And now
Exactly.
we're going to watch Jacoby Brissett lose 13 games. And you think, oh, I wish I'd known that. And like it doesn't really, it kills the Colts because right now you're going to try to see who you can get off the trash heap of some other team. But I mean, you're not going to find, you're not going to find a Russell Wilson or somebody sitting around. So you're basically thinking, okay, we're going to win about 3 or 4 games and hope we can get a halfway decent quarterback in the draft and start building up again. But they have a good enough team where they could go to Super Bowl with a good quarterback, and that's going to be wasted this year.
And
I
do
don't see
you
Jacoby Brissett.
do you chance? There again, there's a decision to be made. They've got some pretty good draft picks coming up. A couple in the first round, second round. Do you trade those away for a second stringer this year? And by the way, for whatever it's worth, of course, I know he's playing against some backups. I thought the Kelly kid done pretty good
Yeah, there was
last
somebody
night.
I put something on Facebook about it. It's like, well, it's kind of last minute. I mean, you think if he'd done this earlier in the year, it would have been
Yeah,
okay. Before the draft, we can draft somebody, but they think that Brissett's okay as a backup, and they got Luck played so well last year. There's no reason to draft a quarterback high up. If they'd known back then that, hey, I'm thinking about retiring, it would have been easy to say, okay, let's draft somebody. We're not going to get one of the top ones, but at least get somebody we can start working on. And when you do it this way, it's just, of course, social media being what it was, it sort of leaked out. And so he's on the sidelines of the Bears game yesterday, and he kind of walks off the field before the game's over, and everybody's just booing the crap out of him. And you think those people would take a bullet for him about a week ago.
yeah, exactly.
And and it's selfish. I understand it's selfish for people to go after him and boo him and all this other stuff. He's got to do like any of us. You got to do what's best for you. I can't live my life try to make you happy. I got to do what I got to do. But I mean, if you're a Colts fan, you just think, I would have just soon him showed up at the door and kicked me in the nuts than do this. Because you think this is just the whole season is just going to be a mess now. And you think, well, what are you going to do? You can't blame the guy. But it was just handled poorly. I mean, to be at the game and it starts leaking out that, hey, you're retiring, and so everybody just booing you. It just got
Well,
crazy in about 3 seconds.
that's the only thing. Now, I've always been a Colts fan, a Bengals fan, as I said, and the Bears. I like the Bears as well. But there again, yeah, it's the way he handled it, man. I mean, I lost so much respect for him. I mean, hell, I don't even know if his agent knew. I mean, it's like, did anybody know? Did Ursay know? I mean, it's like, and I'm sure maybe he done it thinking, well, if I do it this way, they won't let me come back, so I know I got to stand by what I'm saying. I mean, or hell, maybe the guy does need some counseling. There was a situation with Joey Votto. If either one of you guys are Reds fans, which Tom, I know you bleed Cubs, blue Cubs fan, but Votto, after his dad died, he went through a real tough time, and a lot of people thought he was going to walk away from baseball. But
Yeah.
but to just come out and say, now I don't know, Greg, were you a Colts fan to begin with?
I was, yes. I was a big Peyton Manning fan.
Well, we all
And
were.
the sad thing is, I think that Andrew Luck could have been as great as Peyton Manning if they would have protected him on the front line, just like Tom said.
They did sort of
He
sell
had
him
no
out.
protection, and they sold him out, and he got hurt. And I really feel sorry for him. I hate to see anybody get hurt, but I don't like the way he did it. No.
Well, and the thing is, it's different if I'm working where I'm working, and whatever happens, I got family problems, I got something else, and like I need some time off. And like, well, you can't take it. Fine, I quit. There isn't like thousands and thousands of thousands of people that I just screwed over. I screwed over myself, and the bosses are counting on me to fill a chair in that room, and they got to find somebody. But it wasn't devastating to them. When he does something like this, you think, so what? This is his job. But I mean, it affects more than just him. I mean, there's cities.
Man,
The city of Indianapolis and all the state of Indiana and fans and people like that were counting on him, looking forward to him, buying his jerseys. Putting out a lot of money for him. And then all of a sudden it was just like he just says, okay, I'm going to go through this, what I did a year or so ago where I was nagging injury, and I told myself I'm not going to go through that again, so I'm done.
Yeah, he
And
sold
it was
out.
just like, you almost think, he didn't. He seems like a smart guy. He went to Stanford. But he almost acted like somebody who just, just didn't give it any thought, just thought, oh, screw it, I'm quitting.
It was.
And then because I remember I got home last night, I was at a friend's house, and we were watching a movie, so I didn't see any TV, and I turned on my computer, and there it was, and I just kept looking at it thinking, okay, this is a joke, or this means he's not going to play in the preseason, and then the more I read, it's like, no, he's done. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I thought it was
My
one of
life
those.
goes on. I'm not going to go jump off a bridge somewhere, but it's just like, if you're a Colts fan, you just think, well, so much for being excited about this season. It's
Yeah, I thought it was just another one of those erectile dysfunction ads. But yeah, it really it blew me away. But hey, guys, like I told my son, it is what it is, and the sun will come up hopefully, and we'll move forward. But
well,
yeah,
the thing is, like with Manning, he he had his injury, his neck injury and stuff. It's like, okay, they had a bad year because he was out. We had a bunch of backups and stuff. It's like, okay, and then we're going to draft somebody and start climbing that mountain again. And see, Colts fans, trouble with us is that we've been spoiled a little. Between Manning, then you went right into Luck. It's like, there's a year where Manning was hurt, where we had a bunch of backups, and apparently we have another one of those this year. But like the Bears have gone through 30 quarterbacks in the last 5 years. Now they think they're pretty sure they found somebody, hopefully, for them. But, the Colts got kind of lucky where it's like, okay, we got Manning for 10, 14 years. Now we have Luck for 7 or 8 years. And you think, okay, we're settled. We don't have to worry about all these. It's like the Packers going from Favre to Aaron Rodgers. You think, you don't have to go through like everybody else that signs a new quarterback every year hoping he's the one. But
well, the only thing that upset me more than Andrew Luck yesterday, sports wise, was the fact that in the power rankings, they picked the Cincinnati Bengals end up 30th. It's like, damn, how many teams are there again? I think there's 32? So
yeah, something like that.
So anyway, but guys, and hopefully we're going to be doing a sports show in a couple of weeks. Tom, I'm going to try to get Scott on. I've already talked to him. Well, we text each other a couple of times. Davidson, remember that guy?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I see him on Facebook all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get.
He's always putting stuff on there about the park department and all the leagues they got.
Right, I was going to try to get him in here because I know he could tell us a lot about the young people and how parents are behaving in the crowd and this and that. But I know Greg's son is pretty tied up with sports. Is he coaching wrestling?
He's coaching football, Little League football right now.
Oh, really? Okay, so he might want to, hopefully he'll chime in with, and we can talk about area sports. We can talk about national sports. Of course, I'm really excited for the college basketball season. Not sure how IU is going to do again this year. Probably not very good, but UK and Louisville, watch out, and don't forget about those Purdue Boilermakers as well. But that's all down the road, guys. We get on sports, man. I'm in seventh heaven or at least sixth. Any jokes of the day? You guys got anything?
I don't have any.
I've got three. Okay, so here we go. A new teacher, fresh out of college, putting her psychology skills to use, started her class by asking anyone who thinks they are stupid to stand up. After a few seconds, little Johnny stood up. The teacher asked, Johnny, do you think that you are stupid? He replied, no, but I hate for you to stand there all alone.
I did see something on Facebook. I put this thing out there I saw somewhere, and it said, I didn't trip and fall. He said, the floor just looked sad. It looked like it needed a hug, so I gave it a hug.
Okay, you guys are going to like this. I got I actually got one blonde joke. I've got another one, but I'll probably save it for another day. Two blondes living in Oklahoma were sitting on a bench talking. Now, one blonde asked the other, which do you think is further, Florida or the moon? The other blonde turns and says, hello, can you see Florida? And one more here for you. A recent article in the Daily Post reported that a man, Dave Harper, had sued the local hospital, saying that after his wife had surgery at the hospital, she lost all interest in sex. Now, the hospital spokesman replied, the surgery Mrs. Harper had was for cataracts, and all we did was correct her eyesight.
Was that
Now
Debbie?
she can see what she's looking at.
Was that Debbie?
Ooh, now come on.
Okay.
Now here's a joke. There was this 14-year-old weasel goes into a bar and said, what can I have? The guy says, I can't serve you underage. He says, well, what can I have? Bartender says, I have bottled water, juice, energy drinks, and pop. Pop, goes the weasel.
Oh.
What would you want?
Blind guy walks into a bar,
Okay.
sits down, he says, taps the lady next to him, he says, "Hey, I've got some good blonde jokes. You want to hear it? Or a good blonde joke, do you want to hear it?"
Of course, yeah.
And
Go ahead, man.
And she said, "Well, you know, I'm blonde. My friend next to me's blonde. The bartender's blonde. And probably about 50% of the people in here are blonde. Do you still want to tell it?" And he said, "Not if I have to repeat it."
Yeah, well, there you go. Okay, guys, I got one more here. Now, Bob, he forgot his wedding anniversary. Now, we can all, well, none of us here can relate to that. But anyway, his wife was furious. She told him tomorrow morning there better be a gift in the driveway that goes from 0 to 200 in 6 seconds. And it better be there, Bob. Well, now the next morning when his wife woke up and looked out the window, she was very surprised to find a box gift wrapped in the driveway. When she opened it, it was a brand new bathroom scale. Bob hasn't been seen. He hasn't been seen since either, guys. So, if anybody out there on Facebook knows where Bob's at, we can contact us. Could you imagine a scale and go? I guess it go from 0 to 200 in 6 seconds, wouldn't it? Jeez. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I'm depressed now.
Was it the jokes or was it all the
There
other?
was nothing there. Nothing that really helped. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna
No,
probably go. I'm gonna
it's just one of those
take a.
things.
Go ahead.
I just keep going to the same spot my wife does. She just says, "Honey, I just don't pay attention to that stuff," and I find that hard to do.
I do
Just
too.
ignore what's going on and stuff. I read the paper. I go online, and it just, like you said with the MSNBC and stuff. I like to see what the opposition or whoever it is, people who don't think the way I do, what they're saying, and it just half the time, she comes home like, "Why are you banging your head on the wall?" It's like I got to stop reading stuff.
Boy,
But
it is hard.
you keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
I guess. Greg, anything you want to
I'm good.
forget out here, buddy?
I'm good.
Okay, Greg's going, man, I got to get out the door. Guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate y'all for, helping me out here. And maybe we solve somebody's problems. I know I'm in the same boat you guys are. I'm going to go pop a psychotropic as soon as I get off the air here. And we'll take it from there. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Thank you all for listening. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. My name's Dean, Greg. And on behalf of Tom, you all have a great week. God bless. And good night, everybody.
All right, night.
Good night.